Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 3 of our 2025 Creative Experience Series, sponsored by Triple Lift. Before we get started, the special guest, I brought something for you. Stole it from my wife. Ha ha!
You have to deal with that later, not me.
I do. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry.
Today we have Vinny Rindaldi, Vice President, Media and Marketing Technology at the Hershey Company. Vinny, thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to chatting about the power of creative storytelling.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Vinny, outside of Jeremy loving chocolate, when it comes to CTV, how do you see creative storytelling evolving compared to traditional TV now that we have so many digital channels and digital outlets for us to consume content?
Yeah, I think CTV in general, there's too many acronyms, quite honestly. It's still TV. We as an industry like to talk about linear versus streaming when in reality it's the same screen. But I think the ability to use data technology and really insert yourself in different moments is kind of where you're transforming the storytelling from something that felt very static with a 3-on-1 off, tradition into something a bit more responsive. So traditional TV gave us a ton of scale, but it was always the same message to everybody. Where CTV is coming, we can kind of design them for those moments, whether they're personalized, contextual, and of course, increasingly interactive. So I think about a couple of things that we've done that I think is where we've seen the progress, seen the scale, but also seen that authenticity come to life is, we think about our creative platforms, we're trying to build them to flex for all the platforms. So during the holidays, we have this iconic Kisses Bells commercial that, to me, once you see it come on, it signals it's the season. And it's actually the longest lasting creative. It's been around since 1979. But we put that across family-friendly movies between Peacock and Hulu, and we optimize it for both pacing, timing, and of course the mood around the content. So if you think about those small little tweaks as you lead into the season, it led to a lot more stronger emotional connection, brand recall. And, traditional TV wouldn't have let us do that. There was years ago in the past, we had a direct buy on Halloween. We took obviously our biggest Super Bowl moment. And, on the direct buy, I noticed all of our impressions got delivered in the first 6 days of October. And we had about 5% left to deliver for the rest of the month. And that was the moment, that was in 2017. That was the moment where I was like, wait a minute. The most important part of Halloween is the last 5 days, not the first 5 days. And I've got no budget left. So when I realized that started to trickle into the control factor. And I think CTV as a screen or as an element of television allows us and gives us more control as marketers to really show up when it matters most.
You talked about creative, you talked about seasonality. What are some innovative platforms or innovative ad formats that you utilize as Hershey Chocolate Company or Hershey Company, and what really makes it stand out in comparison to the traditional television that we're used to?
Yeah, there's a couple. You've got the moments where you insert that pause break, which was everyone. The original view of this was oh, I got to take a break to go to the bathroom, and Charmin sponsored it. We so happen to have a brand who break is in its culture and its name and it's an icon, and Kit Kat, everybody wants a break. So those integrations, those moments really help us stand out. And it's not just a 15-second spot or a 30-second spot. It is truly immersive in the experience on the screen, which is, incredible. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, obviously sponsored by Triple Lift, but we did an awesome Reese's campaign with them where we use their in-show split screen format. You can see a visual aid of this on their website as well. But really, that's the most iconic visual aid we have. But instead of interrupting that viewing experience, we kind of shared the screen with the content. So you keep the viewers more immersed in the content while giving them that visibility to our brand. So when we think about that it elevated our message without sacrificing their attention, especially when you think about the over ad loads on a lot of the fast networks and some of the longer tail parts of CTV. And, we did something very similar to with Reese's NCAA March Madness program where, we are an NCAA sponsor, but we were able to put more contextual creative during these live games, which really, you can't do in live CBS and Paramount Plus feeds. So it wasn't just a sports placement, but it was really designed to feel like part of the March experience. So we start to bring that alignment between the audience passion as well as our brand storytelling, it really makes it pop and stand out.
So how can brands balance creativity with the need for measurable impact when investing in new CTV ad formats?
It's not really a trade-off anymore, in my opinion. The best creative today is designed to perform. So like, as I think about it, we're building systems that are going to let our creative flex, whether it's by the platform, by the audience, or by the retailer. We're piloting a different modular storytelling where we can swap scenes or calls to action depending on where the ad runs or who it reaches. A really interesting view of that too for us as a impulsive category is, how do you run on a television screen, but also create that impulsive moment where you can buy us? We've done a few integrations with Roku and Instacart and others where you can create a impulsive shoppable moment within that big screen. And that's hard to do as a candy brand. So we're starting to learn there, in the Triple F campaign that I mentioned, we tied brand metrics directly to a creative exposure within the content. And as we add things like QR codes or again, those shoppable overlays, we're capturing different signals of intent. So it's not just the impression. Are people engaging? Are they really using the remote to move around? So the key is really aligning on the KPI. So when media measurement and creative are on the same page from the start, innovation within all these different areas becomes a growth lever, not really a risk. And that's kind of how we've been leading with innovative moments.
So in your role, how do you ensure that your creative voice doesn't get lost in a sea of content?
Yeah. So when we look at all of our brands, again, each one has a different role, but we really prioritize distinctiveness over ubiquity. Every part of our brand, whether it's Reese's, Jolly Rancher, or Hershey Kisses, it's got its own tone, its own emotion, and its own cultural role. So my job is really to take all those and amplify them in a way that feels right for that viewing environment. So, we did this massive integration with Barstool Sports. We integrated our brands into their talent, all of their talent across their content distributed within YouTube and all of their, other ecosystems that they connect to. And it never felt like an ad. But honestly, it felt like we belonged there at all times. Reese's was everywhere. We took them over during March Madness where, as games got closer, it was a Reese's hot seat. Somebody had to sit in it. So like, it always felt we wouldn't get lost. It was fun. We showed up in their vein in very authentic ways in a format and a platform where we were really additive to the experience they already created. So, the way I kind of keep pushing this is we're not just chasing the impression anymore. We're really designing a brand presence within these moments.
So what do you believe is going to be the biggest creative rule changer or when it comes to streaming, and how should other brands prepare? I mean, it's not like prepare for Armageddon, but there's so much taking place. How do we?
I think we think everything is Armageddon when something new comes out, and the whole industry needs to swing and go back and forth. But I think again that adaptive creative at scale, where the story changes in real time based on the viewer, the behavior, or even the moment of the content that we're within. We're building toward a future in Hershey's creative, which is more modular and certainly looking at AI powered capabilities. So if you think about it, I thought Coke did a really nice job with this, even though they got a lot of flack back and forth on their Christmas ad. But they have the ability to do something like that where you've got an iconic color, an iconic product, and an iconic scene with polar bears and Christmas that you could bring all those things together. I feel like they got so much crap for it and they didn't deserve it because it was more just to show that like you could do it if you are an iconic brand. So we've talked a lot about that. There's, even different moments where you've got Roku where they're doing direct to cart pilots, which to me, where you let viewers take action directly from the experience without ever having to leave the content. So it's not about interrupting with a message. It's really more about how do you enable a seamless connection and conversion opportunity. So as we look at our brand portfolio, we're looking to build ecosystems, creative that's testable, measurable, and customizable. The hero spot isn't dead though, but it's just one part of that broader system of adaptive storytelling in the future.
Awesome. Vinny, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our sponsors, Triple Lift, for sponsoring this series focused on creative experiences. Speak to you soon.
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vinny.
Thanks, Vinny.